state connected to a negative experience that one has had. And I know that many of us will have different definitions, and even the dictionary will give you several definitions of pain. But we want to be as practical as possible about this discussion today. And one of the reasons why we're having this discussion is because in the world that we live in today, there are so many people who have or are or will experience situations that will cause pain. And while it's not a very interesting or positive experience, we want to really understand what it is about and see different ways by which we can heal, and also be able to pick out certain benefits that you can inherit from a not so pleasant, negative, sensational experience that we have come to label as pain. All right, so people will either experience physical pain or emotional pain. Physical pain maybe because there's an injury to a tissue on your body or a part of your body, or a process that your body undergoes, and then part of the experience of in that process is pain. For instance, maybe a surgical operation where something is taken out of your body through surgery or surgical procedures, or maybe something is infused into your body, and then the aftermath of that procedure is experienced or felt through pain. And then you go from physical pain even to emotional pain, and seeing the psychological aspect of experiencing such sensations. That's what we are talking about today. Now, let me give you a few facts I've come to discover about pain. And as we always do on this show, let me know at the comment section for every point that we discuss. Let us know how that connects with you as a person. Point number one: pain is a universal language. Just like water is a universal solvent, it dissolves many solutes or solids. Pain is a universal language. That's true. Everybody speaks it. There is no human being on earth. There is no person, as long as you are human, residing on earth, you must have had experiences in life that caused you pain, or you must have had experiences within which you felt pain. While for some, pains are triggers that something is wrong, for others, pain has been part of a recovery process. So whatever category you fall under, pain is a universal language that we all speak. Old or young, man or woman, boy or girl, regardless of gender, of race, of tribe, of ethnocultural descent, pain is pain. And you know, the thing about pain is it is impartial. It is not segregational. Pain is not prejudicial. Pain is just pain. Everybody feels pain. It has no respect for what class of society you belong to. Pain is pain. And of course, it is a negative experience. Number two, pain is much more felt than it can be described. That's true. No matter how you try to describe pain, it's not as much as when you experience it personally. In fact, it's in the experience of pain that you can describe it. If you've ever had a situation in your life that took you through what I would call a black hole emotionally, and you felt so much emotional pain. When you try to describe the experience, sometimes you may find yourself slipping into the memories that you have gotten when you went through that experience. And sometimes you see people break down emotionally and begin to cry, because in trying to describe what they went through, the memories kick in and become triggers, and they almost begin to touch the very negative sensation that they experienced when they had that situation. Or maybe it's a physical pain, as it were, pain caused by a physical situation. There are people who had injuries when they were younger, and even though years have passed, they've healed from those injuries, something has happened to that part of their body. It has been malformed. The structure of that part of their body has been altered, and so there's still slight pain felt when you touch that aspect, or when you touch that part of their body. So pain is, I don't want to say better felt than described, because truly nobody prays for pain, but that's just the truth. It's much more experienced than it is described. Whether it's the pain of neglect or abandonment, or the pain of losing someone, or the pain of being misunderstood or betrayed, or the pain that comes through a surgical process, or the pain that comes from abuse, or the pain that comes from feeling that you are a disappointment, is much more experienced than it should be described. And that's the reason why sometimes, the best way to empathize with people is when you have, like them, had a similar experience. There's somewhere in the Bible, in Isaiah 53, I think that's from verse 4 to 5, talking about the passion of Jesus Christ, when it said, "Surely he has borne our grief and carried away our sorrows, and we esteemed him stricken of God. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we're healed." And so you see how that the passion, the traumatic experience that Jesus Christ went through, brought him to a point where he could relate with our sufferings, because he suffered. And so the best way and the only way to thoroughly describe pain is when you've gone through it yourself. In my opinion, except that medical doctor or medical personnel is frank. Otherwise, in my opinion, with all due respect to doctors, the wrongest set of people to go to describe pain for you are doctors. I remember many years ago, I was sick and I was to be given some injections. Now I asked the doctor, "Will it pain me?" Now I was not asking because I didn't know injections were painful. I was asking to get succor. I was asking to get, what's the word now? I needed a little relief, an assurance. And the doctor said, no, not at all. It's just a little. It just be like I pinch you, and that's why. And then, she pinched me. Now lie you. When the injection came, Just use your imagination to design what happened. So pain is much more felt than it can be described. Number 3, pain has benefits. Pain has benefits. All right. Scramble around the comment section. Let me hear you now. Does pain have benefits? What are you saying, sir? Pain, care? Is there any benefit in pain? I will never wish for even my enemy to go through the kind of pain I went through. Especially if your pain is emotional pain. Oh, maybe somebody stood you up, or somebody broke up with you. Say, what's the benefit in that kind of experience now? Just hold on. Pain has benefits. Just accept that sentence as a fact. Okay, before we get into what those benefits are, if it's really true that pain has benefits. But pain has benefits. You see, one of the things I've learned in life is everybody wants a good time. We want to relive pleasurable experiences that we've had in the past in such a way that we even tend to want them to repeat themselves again. And whilst it's good to have pleasurable experiences, even though they are momentary, it's important to know that we learn not only in good conditions, we also learn under negative, stringent conditions, negative situations and circumstances. We learn even in the bad times. We learn even at hard times. Suffering can be a school that you can learn from. And so whilst we do everything possible to get over and forget certain unpleasant experiences we've had, it's important to know that you can deduce certain lessons from those situations. Every time you suffered, every time you were afflicted, every time you went through pain, every time you went through a season of brokenness, every time you went through a dark hole of depression, there are lessons you can pull out from that part of your lives. And you know, the thing with lessons learned from unpleasant situations and circumstances is that those lessons stick because they came in not so pleasant conditions. You know, when we're younger those days, there was a drug we used to take. They call it vitamin C. So it had 2 types. There was the normal type, which was orange color or so. That was sweet. Everybody liked that one. Then they introduced us to a white one that tasted sour. And I remember the first time I took it, I said, no, this is not vitamin C. No, this is vitamin C. I said, this one that is not sweet is stronger than the one that is sweet. Now, I don't know whether that is true or not. Medical people will help us on the platform here. Which vitamin C is more effective? The sour one or the sweet one? And then one day somebody gave me paracetamol and said, this is the white vitamin C. So I said, oh yes, they say the white one is effective, but it's not too sweet. And I threw it into my mouth to lick. And the taste that met my taste buds was very terrible. But then there are benefits in painful situations, painful sensations, and I want to show you a few. What are the benefits you can deduce from pain? Number 1, it tells you that you are not dead yet. This one, I got it from a lecturer. My lecturer in higher institution told us this. It tells you that you are not dead yet. That means only those who are alive feel pain. You know, when somebody is gasping for air, or when somebody is, about to die and they're trying to resuscitate that person, there is a machine in the hospital that they use. It's like a resuscitator. It carries high electric voltage. I don't know what the name is, but they use it to resuscitate people. They're like two devices like this. So when they place it on the chest of the individual, it sends strong, high electric current to the heart of that individual and to jolt that person. Now, if they are still alive, that resuscitation mechanism will work. They will respond to the jolt of high electric current that has been sent into their thoracic, region. So you see that it's only when you're alive that you can feel pain. Whether it is the emotional pain, depression, despair, discouragement, anxiety, whatever it is, or physical pain, it tells you are not dead yet. And so the moment you stop feeling pain on certain things, it means that side of you is dead. And there are people like that. There are people whose conscience have been so seared. There are people who have been ravaged with abuse again and again. Their emotions have been abused again and again, that they no longer feel any pain. Break up with them, no problem. I spoke to a lady one time and she said, no, they don't break up with me. It's me that break up with them. It's me that break up with them. I could remember how she said that. So there are people that they don't feel pain again. That tells you that part of their conscience or their emotions is dead. And even in your physical body, if there's a part of your body that doesn't feel pain, most likely the tissues have necrosified. Okay, necrosis is the word for death of cells. Number 2, pain has benefits. It indicates that there is an injury. Something is wrong. When you feel pain, it's a sign that something is wrong. When you feel pained over a situation, it's a sign something is wrong and it needs to be fixed, either with you or with that thing. Another benefit of pain is that it shows that you are human. Pain shows you are human. It is human to feel pain. It is abnormal not to feel pain, actually. More benefits. Its traumatic memory stays long enough to help you make future preventive decisions. The traumatic memory caused by pain stays long enough to help you make future preventive decisions. You see, when a young child, children, infants, and then maybe early toddler stage, those days, not now, I'm sure that this generation don't really know that, but when we were very young, there were kerosene lanterns we use in Africa here. How many of you ever used kerosene lantern? Some of you never used your rechargeable lamp. They gave birth to you with rechargeable lamp. From rechargeable lamp to solar. Okay, but if you ever used kerosene lantern, and you just see the fire dancing inside the lantern. I don't know why children are so attracted to fire. Honestly, don't know. And you try to don't touch it, and the child, why are you disturbing me? But then you allow the child one day and he goes and holds the glass of the lantern and it pricks him or her with pain and they jolt off. If you like, keep that lantern there tomorrow, keep it for the next 1 year, they won't touch it, because the experience they had created a memory that has stayed with them enough to help them make a preventive decision in future, that this thing should not be touched. Some of you wouldn't have made preventive decisions in your life to help you if you had not gone through pain. Imagine the pain you felt when you lost money. 1,500,000. 200,000. Imagine that pain you felt. There are some people that if they lose money, they can't eat for days. Good. So that pain now has created a memory such that the next time they bring an investment opportunity to you and you remember what you lost, say, no, wait, let me take time to study this very well. Okay, so pain, as traumatic as it is, creates a memory that stays long enough to help you make preventive future decisions. They say once bitten, twice shy. And what's the other statement? Twice shy, ever a fool. More benefits of pain. It compels you to give attention to you. When you feel pain, it's time to give attention to you. If you feel pain on one part of your body, you become attentive and sensitive to that part of your body. Without the presence of that pain, you would not even think that that part of your body exists. But the moment you feel pain there, maybe you break or you fracture a part of your arm or a bone or something, or maybe an injury somewhere, or you went through a very disastrous situation, pain makes you sensitive of you. It makes you give attention to you. And that's a problem many people have. They seldom give attention to themselves until they go through an unpleasant situation. Some people don't care about themselves. Some people don't love themselves at all. In fact, the moment you say love yourself, to them, some of them maybe because of being hyper religious and some of them being over sentimental. And when you say self-love, they self-righteously think that self-love is selfishness. No, you can't love other people if you don't love yourself. You can't be attentive to others if you are not attentive to yourself. The care you show to others is the care you show to yourself. The moment you feel pain, you become sensitive to that part of your body. In fact, some people, they will not want to touch that part. If somebody gets injured on the leg, they can't walk with that leg. They start limping with one leg. So the day you feel pain, you become attentive to yourself. And you know, when you give attention to yourself, that's the best time for self-appraisal, for self-scrutiny that helps you to grow and develop and become better. Can I go on? More benefits of pain. It helps you to gauge your healing or recovery process. It helps you to gauge your healing or recovery process. You can tell sometimes that you have healed when pain stops. In fact, that's one of the first things that happen to an injury. Pain stops. You're no longer feeling pain again. And then gradually the injury dries up and heals. So you can gauge your recovery process with pain. If it is emotional pain, the next time you see that person that betrayed you, or that person that took advantage of you, or that person that sabotaged your effort or tried to antagonize you, how do you feel? The way you feel, if the pain still returns, it means you've not healed from that process. So you can gauge your healing or recovery process with pain. Number one, I told you pain is a universal language. Number two, I said pain is much more felt than it is described. Number three, I said pain has benefits. And then finally, number four, numbing pain doesn't necessarily amount to healed wounds. Numbing pain doesn't necessarily amount to healed wounds. When you numb pain, it's possible to kill the pain of an injury without treating the injury. It is. In fact, in pharmacy and pharmacology, there are sets of drugs that are called analgesics. They are painkillers. Okay? What they do is they work on the nerves around the tissue, the nerves that innervate the tissue where you have the trauma. They work on those nerves because those nerves allows for sensitivity. Those nerves are connected to your spinal cord and your brain. Okay, I'm teaching you a little bit of medical science now. So the analgesics go to act on those nerves to stop them from being sensitive to the current trauma within that site of action. But it doesn't mean that the tissues have been handled. You just worked on the nerves, not the tissue. So numbing pain. Now, when we talk about numbing pain, somebody says, I'm going through a lot. I just want to feel happy. I want to feel normal. And then they go to a beer parlor or they go to a bar to drink, have a good time. Some even smoke, especially nowadays when they are doing everything to legitimize smoking. I've heard of what they call that thing they smoke with pipe, shisha. Shisha, right? Yeah. So now there's even what they call electric cigarette. They say it's electric cigarette. It's not the real cigarette. Cigarette, not cigarette. Smoking is smoking. And they do that because they try to numb the experience. They try to forget. Just because you are numbing the pain does not mean you have healed from the situation. The bad thing about drinking and smoking, and I take no offense on those who do that, but the truth is, the side effect is you wake up the next day and you sometimes are more miserable than the previous day. Yeah, people find every way possible to try to numb their pain, but that the pain is numb does not mean you heal. Focus on healing and the pain will naturally go. The pain is part of the recovery process. It's just like a surgical operation performed in a part of your body. You will feel the pain. Of course, they give you anesthesia, anesthetics to keep you dull whilst the surgery is going on. But eventually, when the surgery is over, the anesthetics will wear off and then you get to feel the pain. That pain is a sign that something went wrong in your body and your body was touched. And it was touched so that you can be healed, because healing comes from pain. Healing comes through pain. So instead of always trying to numb the pain, why don't you focus on healing, emotionally or physically? All right, so those are the 4 things on pain. Do we have any question? There's one more thing I want to explain before we call it a day. Do we have any question there? No question? Okay. There's something I'm going to explain to us next week. The psychology of pain. And it's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. It connects the it shows the place of your emotions, your thoughts, and your attention, and your emotions and your thoughts, and how they connect to traumatic situation. We'll also talk about parts of your body, connecting your mind now to your body. We'll talk about we'll talk about gateways. That's what we call them, the gate control theory. We talk about how certain experiences open up gates for you to feel pain intensely, and how you can close those gates. And all of these things are emotional, and we'll connect that with your body. It's a whole lot. I would have talked about it today, but let's leave that for the part 2 of this, and then we'll talk about healing from pain and the signs that you have healed from something. Because the purpose for this discussion is so that we can find healing from the wounds inflicted on us by the tragic experiences that we have had to deal with as we go through life. Remember, pain is a universal language. The next time you walk on the road, as you go about your business, and you find recalcitrant, resistant people, you find people of restraint, you find people keeping to themselves or refusing to associate, it may be that they have gone through very painful experiences that they've not been able to heal from. And we want to learn to find answers so that through these answers we can bring peace and we can bring healing to our world today. I mean, today is June 12th, Democracy Day celebration in Nigeria. But I think this discussion is timely at a season when the country seems to be bleeding and feeling a lot of pain. We just had almost 300 Nigerians who were evacuated back to Nigeria from South Africa because of the xenophobic attacks. Now, even that xenophobic situation is we'll talk about that next week. That's what happens when you don't heal completely. There's a kind of pain you feel that becomes prolonged, chronic, when you have not healed properly from a trauma. These xenophobic attacks you see happening in South Africa, it's a blast from the past, and we need to see how that can be fixed. Okay? So make sure you stay tuned for the discussion next week. But it's been an exciting time today, and I hope that we've learned a lot from the few minutes we've spent together. No questions? Okay. Okay, there's a question from Maury. Okay. That's a very sensitive question. How can we handle pain when caused by people who don't take responsibility for their actions? Yeah. You know, sometimes it helps. I'm not saying it's a must, but sometimes it helps your healing process when whoever is responsible for the pain you went through get to apologize, or at least get to acknowledge their mistakes. Now, in this case, he said these people are unwilling to take responsibility. So even if you confront them, they may not really acknowledge what they have done or apologize. And this is what I will say to you. Since there are people who are unwilling to take responsibility, it may be that they themselves have not gone through traumatic situations like you are going through. And irresponsible people cannot be caregivers. So going to them to confront them because of what they have done may be almost useless. That's when you realize that you don't need them to heal from your pain. What you need to heal from your pain is the decision to want to be healed. The decision to realize that one experience should not define your life and your future. And number two, to seek help from relevant quarters. The truth is, if somebody hurt you, offends you, and is unwilling to take responsibility for what they have done, there will be someone else who understands what you are going through and will be ready to stand with you and succor you until the pain leaves and until you are healed. Another way you can heal from pain caused by irresponsible people is to embrace self-love. Remember, I told you that pain makes you give attention to yourself. Now, if there's been a bit of self-love existing in your life as a person, when another person is responsible for your trauma, you will find that your healing will flow from within, because there is the presence of self-love. You love yourself. You care about yourself. You give attention to yourself. You didn't have to wait for a situation such as that to look inward and be attentive to yourself. And so the love for self can bring about innate healing from within, or can attract to you people who love you and are ready to see you healed. So these are just some of the ways that you can heal from pain caused by people who are irresponsible. Remember, irresponsible people cannot be caregivers. And don't ever think that you heal completely if they get to apologize or they get to acknowledge they are wrong. And it's sad that sometimes a little apology from such people would have helped. Now, we'll talk about that when we come to the gate control theory. We'll talk about that. Opening and closing the gate. We'll talk about that. What an apology can do. All of these things we will talk about, and how it affects the emotions of a person. Okay? So you stay tuned for the next part of this discussion. Any other question? Okay, one more. Let's treat that.
So this is from Elizabeth.
Okay.
She said, Daddy, how do you heal from pain when the very thing that caused you pain is still lurking around or inside you? And she put in bracket, asking figuratively. I will paraphrase if you want.
Okay, paraphrase. Let's hear. Because now she says it's still lurking around or within. These are two different forces. We can deal with the one lurking around by isolating you from that. But what if it's something within you? I used to say those days, what if the enemy is you? So if it is lurking within you, are we going to remove you from it? So paraphrase, let's understand the part of it's lurking within you, so we know how to deal with that. But if it's around you, it's simply to isolate you. I mean, it happens. If you have a physical injury, maybe you step on broken glass, the first thing to do is take you away from that place, because there may be another glass waiting to cause another injury. But now when it is inside of you, it's quite a complex situation. Has she paraphrased? Okay.
Maureen said, thank you, sir. You have one from Manuel FM.
Okay, let's take that one and we're done.
Said, good evening, sir.
Mm-hmm.
How can one be healed from pain and can't forget the
Now, remember we said, I think I understand the question. Remember we said that pain creates memories. When I was talking about the benefits of pain, I said it creates traumatic memories that stay long enough to help you make future preventive decisions. The truth is, you will not be able to forget the experience. You may not be able to forget the experience, but you can heal from the pain. You can heal from the experience without forgetting it. And I think it's good that we get to remember the experiences, so you don't fall victim of the very situation that caused you pain. Okay? So healing has little or nothing to do with memory. Yeah, we'll talk about that at the part 2 of this discussion. You can still remember, like I remember when I broke my hand. Which hand was? I think I had 2 scenarios where I had it broken when I was, I think, about 6, 7, or 8 thereabout, and then fast forward years later in boarding school and all. I still remember the incidents very well, but the pain is no longer there. So you focus on healing from the situation and leave the memory. The memory there will serve as a deterrent to prevent you from such situation. But if you remember the situation and feel pain, it means you have not healed. Because we said one of the benefits of pain is that it helps you to gauge your healing and recovery process. That's all we can take today. More questions?
Okay, so just paraphrase. Yes. One from Emma, please. She said, good evening, sir. Please, how will you release the pain you refuse to heal?
We'll talk about that in the part 2 of this discussion. So keep that question locked in. And what was our paraphrase?
She said, what if it's a person or thing
Mm-hmm.
that you can't do without or isolate from inside?
That's what she means. That's something within you now.
Yes, tell about necessary evil.
Necessary evil. Okay, I understand. there's really nothing you can do without, except oxygen, except air. There's really nothing you can't do without. There's no evil that is necessary. And that's where therapy will come in. We'll talk about that in the part 2. But thank you so much, every one of us, for staying tuned. Thank you for being a part of Mentored. If you really are blessed and really getting transformed by these live sessions, these discussions, I'd like you to talk to a friend. Tell someone to tell somebody to join us every Friday by 7 p.m. and be a part of a show that encourages growth, personal development, transformation, and keeps you at the cutting edge of life. Especially this series we are discussing dealing with pain. Let everyone around you going through one pain or the other be able to find healing and peace because you connected them to this platform. Thank you so much for being here again from me and the team in the studio. Next week. So we have a program next week, and then we will not have a session next week. So it's going to be 12th, 19th, and then 26th. 26th of June will come for the part 2 of dealing with pain. God bless you. Have an amazing, fantastic weekend, and bye-bye.